So this expedition was Rotted Woods. I've got two cranial vessel candle stands that I was actually given by allies on this run. Um, I don't really know these players. They are people I found in the Elden Ring Discord. Didn't like any of the deals Libra offered me. Typically against Libra, I like to take the ailments one that costs a little bit of stamina. And I have tried out the greater power one, although you do have to survive the early minute or two, couple minutes of the fight with lowered stats. It's a little risky, but I think it is strong. Especially because, as you'll see, most of the time we take to kill the boss is during like the bottom quarter of Libra's health bar. For the most part, like any Night Lord, he starts much like his original version's Phase 2. In a prior attempt, we had a couple of Vike Spears among the party, and we madnessed him instantly at the start of the fight. It was requested by one of these players that we actually do that later. My understanding of it is rather poor, but apparently every time you inflict an ailment, their resistance to it may go up, or it's like harder to continue inflicting it to them. So just kind of saving our ability to proc madness for later in the fight, I guess, was the idea. Of course, you see the rings around my player. Currently, it would cost levels to flask, so we're trying not to take too much damage. Personally, unlike other night bosses, this particular Everdark Libra, I think, during those phases where you can't use your flasks are better times to rely on your hard tears, bubble tears, whatever you call them. Regarding the team comp, we did Raider, and Duchess with this trio of players earlier, but Shining Wizard, who was the other Raider, elected to go Revenant instead. I don't have a strong opinion about this choice, but I actually do think that enemy Revenants, for when the demon summons Condemned, are among the easiest of the enemy Condemned that can appear in this. The worst thing an enemy Revenant I feel like has really ever done is they've got, I'm not sure if it's like an aromatic or exactly which item or ability causes it, but they've basically got the Ancestral Spirits like Blue Fire for some area denial here. This particular Raider has like a bleed setup with the Great Stars and all that. I was sort of aware that this Raider and Duchess were both kind of after me and decided to play keep away from the rest of my team with them. I don't actually see too well what my team is doing. But hopefully they, take the opportunity and hit Libra here. It's also worth being very careful when you have a Duchess on your team, because one of the Duchess Condemned loadout possibilities is Sword of Night and Flame, and she will also cast sorceries at you. And I've personally found that can involve you running towards Libra or just running around somewhere in general and getting shot in the back by a Duchess sorcery you didn't know is there. Much like Iron Eye. Iron Eye can be very similar. There's a Poison Bow Iron Eye and a Jar Cannon Iron Eye. It's kind of interesting. In a way, players have some amount of ability to kind of tune what's going to happen into the fight during the fight based on the choice of Nightfarers they bring to the fight. If you're overly focused on the boss's weakness to Holy and Fire and its resistance to magic damage, you may overlook spells such as Stars of Ruin, but as you can see, one of my teammates has brought in and is using it. Again, because it's very effective against Condemned, the enemy Nightfarers. Right around this bottom 20% or so of Libra's health is where most attempts I've made at fighting this boss have begun to go off the rails. This is where you start to have, in a trio game, up to 6 enemy condemned Nightfarers on the map at once, which can be really overwhelming. Those underfoot sigils, I don't know what it is. That stuff always spawns when I'm in the middle of doing something else. Like, I am always locked in an animation, and it's like, hello, here's some sigils under your feet. It's tremendously unfortunate. It just always seems to go that way. I begin getting concerned during the late game. I recall telling them that I felt that the boss's HP hadn't moved in a considerable amount of time. Not any particular person's fault, just as much mine as anyone else's. It's the chaos of the fight. It becomes more and more difficult to find what feels like safe moments to come and contribute a lot of damage to Libra during the later parts of the fight. I felt that things were going pretty well at this moment, though, but momentarily things will start to go awry. This eyeball effect overhead that builds up madness is, in particular, quite difficult to deal with. Unless there's something I don't know, the only consistent way I've found to deal with it has been to navigate around the arena picking up the madness shards that happen after Libra spells, but as you can see, there aren't really any around during almost this entire eye phase, so we end up, there's some around now, but there wasn't the prior time. So we do end up taking, madness procs. Getting shot in the back by Duchess again. Duchess condemned. At this point, we got pretty worried. Shout out to Busy here, who kept it together. And, as always, it's generally a good idea for any downed players to go stack on top of each other so the third can have a better time trying to get you both up at once. We definitely could have lost the whole thing here, but Busy was very calm and kept it together and manages to save us momentarily. I like that they stayed quite far away from us until we were on top of each other, meaning that when they surge sprint over here, they end up far from the Condemned and Libra, making that actually a pretty safe raise. So it was really just stalling out for a bit of time, but very well played there. These walls that come down after Libra does that sort of plus-shaped attack that lands on the ground like that, these walls take some of your health as you pass through them. A bit dangerous. As you can see, Condemned Revenant using the Ancestor Spirit like skull thing that makes the blue fiery gas stuff. I'm getting shot in the back by Duchess again. It's very funny. The first half of Libra's health happens in the first 20% of the fight timeline, and then we're just slowly chipping away for the rest of it. That was a little bit dumb. I wasn't looking and found my way into the trap. There's a lot of moving parts to this fight to pay attention to, and inevitably you'll get caught by something you weren't paying attention to. Although Duchess is capable of doing a lot of damage to us as a Condemned invader, she's very squishy. They're all generally are. They're not super high health invaders. I've heard that some people have had a lot of luck with AoE spells and incantations. There I'm getting Sword of Night and Flame beamed in the back. Please. At this point, I think I get downed again. Yeah, trap underfoot. Right as I flasked. A lot of the time, if you try to roll those traps, it's almost like the trap is timed to roll catch you. You see it under your feet, you roll, and as soon as you're out of the iframes and in the recovery frames is like when it goes off. And it's not programmed to wait for you. It's just the timing of it. But while it's hard to keep a cool head and do it in practice, I had already come to the conclusion before this attempt that a lot of the times it may be better to surge sprint out of traps than to try to roll them. It's just overpowering the instinct to roll. Will take some time. If I continue to do attempts on this boss, I'm sure as I get more and more comfortable, I'll be able to react accordingly. Much like when Elden Ring first came out and jumping AoEs was a thing to avoid damage, getting used to the idea of jumping something instead of pressing dodge. You know, it just takes a little adjustment to get used to it. I actually don't know if any of these traps can be jumped. I would assume that those ones, for example, that we just saw, they explode with an upward effect beam of light that comes off the ground and expands upward. So I would assume that that they aren't jumpable because it looks like they likely have a damage hurt box that extends from the ground up into the sky. My teammate here with the Duchess Invisibility gets me up again. Quite frankly, these guys really carried me here. It may be some time until I have it, you know, down on my own. I did do a solo that got relatively similar to this place on Libra's health bar, but have not completed a solo at this time. This was my first kill. I should have considered maybe getting out of that, but the damage reduction on Raider's punch, it wasn't the end of the world. Now this is something you should keep in mind. It's very tempting to treat False Blessing costs a level to use Flask as a rule to never use Flask during those phases, but when you're at 0 flasks, you can still drink when that effect comes out. And if you're level 15, going down to 14, 13, even 12 to 15 is commonly understood to be the diminishing returns range on levels. Like, giving up those levels to top up your HP if it means locking in a kill is going to be very worth it. A very worthwhile strategy for Libra. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. And if you want to see more, you know, boss kills or more commentated videos and stuff like that, subscribe to the channel and there will be more. Thank you.